Hey friend, I'm Brandon Gustafson and I help beginners like you launch their assisted living business in the next 12 months. In today's video, we're going to be getting into the topic of $12,000 per month per room with Medicaid. Can you do it? I'm super excited to get into this with you. If you need some help getting started, I'd love to also give you my free underwriting calculator. If you just go over to assistedlivinginvesting.net, you can grab that big blue box in the top right corner and download that free tool to help you understand if this is going to be profitable for you or not. Welcome back to Assisted Living Investing. In today's video, we're going to be getting into how I can get $12,000 per month for a room with Medicaid in assisted living. So if you've been trying to figure out how to do this, I wanted to give you a little bit of context on how I can actually do this and how you can be profitable. And we had talked about this in a live video a few months ago, and so we're going to link that up above so you can understand a little bit more about specifically what Medicaid is and some of the strategies that you can implement there. And then this video, we're going to be getting really deep into that $12,000 per room per month with Medicaid residents in there. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit about Medicaid to just kind of set the stage. Medicaid is not Medicare. Medicare is a federally funded program. It's a federal program. It works with, you've got Part A, B, and D. So you have inpatient, you have outpatient, and you have medication, pharmaceuticals, basically. It deals with much more traditional healthcare is what I would say. So you're working with that type of a group. Medicaid, on the other hand, is something that is administered at a state basis, and your ability to qualify is not solely age-based, though there are other ways to qualify for Medicare, but your qualification with Medicaid is much more contingent on like a disability, or your income is a big driver for it, and the funds and the assets that you have. And so that's how you qualify for Medicaid. So it's a big difference. While they do offer some parallel types of benefits, and you could have Medicare and Medicaid at the same time, and you can tandem those benefits together, they are not the exact same benefits. They work in different areas. Oftentimes, Medicaid is going to help supplement whatever Medicare or any other health insurance that you may have. It's going to supplement that and be a second payer and really allow you to maximize those benefits. And that's kind of how Medicaid works with assisted living. Number one, it's a state administered program. So funding comes from the federal government, but it is administered at a state basis. It's approved at the legislature level. And so you are told, hey, the way that it works is they give you all of the codes. So there's hundreds of different codes that can be billed for inside of the world of healthcare. And Medicaid will have all of these codes. Assisted living is one of those codes. So it's kind of an all-inclusive rate that you bill. It's a daily rate that you're going to bill to Medicaid, and they will reimburse you for it. That daily rate is something that it's set at a state level. Sometimes there's ways to adjust it based off of level of care, and we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But it's something that I want you to be aware of, that it's not, I get to set what my Medicaid rate is. They will tell you what that Medicaid rate is, what that daily rate is going to be. That's one of the mechanisms that you are going to get paid as you are trying to figure out what that Medicaid reimbursement rate is going to be. So the state will tell you, and then you can start basing your underwriting off of that. Now, once you have that daily rate in place, there's actually other ways that you can get paid with Medicaid. There's what I like to call a RUF, R-U-F, rent, utilities, and food payment. That payment is going to come directly from the resident themselves. It comes through their Social Security. So you have to remember, for an individual to qualify for Medicaid, there's a financial requirement. That means that they don't have a job, or if they do, it's a very minimal amount. They're not making a ton of money. They don't have any other assets. They don't have a house that they could do a reverse mortgage on or sell to get a bunch of money. If that's what they find themselves, the situation that they find themselves in, they're not going to qualify for Medicaid. And so they're going to have to be a private pay resident for you. That's kind of the difference there between a Medicaid and a private pay individual. I've received this question a lot, like how do residents pay for this service? Like, it's so expensive, $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month, whatever number it is that you've heard. They're real numbers, 3,000 to 10,000 and even higher than that. So how do people pay for this? And oftentimes it is because they have a house that they've done a reverse mortgage on, or they have sold it, and so they have a chunk of money that's available. They may also have long-term care insurance. They could have a retirement fund. That's where that money is going to come from. Now, if all of those things go away, they can continue to receive care from you through Medicaid. They qualify for Medicaid, and then they receive that. They're still getting their Social Security income. You get to collect, the state will tell you how much, but you get to collect about 90% of that money of their Social Security income as rent, utilities, and food. A rough payment is what we call it. The other component to that is maybe they have a trust, or they've got something like that. They've got a little extra money coming in from somewhere. In order for them to continue to qualify for Medicaid, they have to spend that down. It's called a spend down. Now, when they're spending that down, what that means is that money's got to go to you. And so the state will evaluate individuals, and they have to recertify their ability to be qualified for Medicaid on a regular basis. Generally, it's annually. And in doing that, they will say, okay, there's a share of cost that also comes into this. They get $300 from this investment, from this trust, something along those lines. And they have to pay that to you, or else they don't qualify for Medicaid if they do that. So there's actually 3 ways that you are getting paid when you are working with Medicaid, which is actually, it's kind of a cool thing when you think about it. There's multiple streams of income as you're trying to move things along here with Medicaid. Now, let's talk a little bit about becoming certified as a Medicaid provider. The process that you're going to go through is, number one, you have to be a licensed facility. So if you want to be an unlicensed facility, you cannot go this route of Medicaid because it is a requirement. It's part of the application process to be a licensed facility. So you're going to have that in your back pocket. You're going to have to get the license so that you can serve this Medicaid population if you want to do that. So that's number one. Beyond that, the rest of the application process is pretty similar to getting your facility license. The thing that you have to be aware of, though, is you're working with a different government agency. You're going to have your licensing body for assisted living, and you're going to have the certification body for Medicaid. And every state's going to be different. They're going to be in different departments. They're going to be called something different. So I can't tell you, Medicaid is this office and assisted living licensing is this office. There's no consistency across the states. Every state's going to be different. But you have to figure out what those different departments are and then work with them. What's difficult is oftentimes those departments, they don't really talk to each other. Like, they're aware of the other department, they probably know somebody over there, but they're not having regular meetings, and they don't coordinate at all. And so that's something you also want to be aware of, that you're going to have to go into this and do a lot of the coordinating and things like that all on your own, which can be frustrating. There's a lot of hiccups that can also come into play in this. As I was getting things ready for my Colorado facility, it took us 4 months to get our Medicaid application approved and get us certified, which really was detrimental to us from a cash flow perspective. It made things pretty difficult there. And so that's something that I'd like you to avoid. And I can help you navigate those hiccups, because I told you Colorado took us about 4 months. In Idaho, it took us about 3-4 weeks. It accelerated things a lot because I learned so much as I was making those mistakes. So if you need help as you're trying to figure this out, I'd love to see if I can help you out. Go apply to the Mastermind program, alimastermind.com. Simple application lets me see if I can help you out. If I can, I will send you all the details and we'll go from there. So again, that's alimastermind.com. All right, now before I get into the whole $12,000 per room per month with Medicaid and the example that I have for my facilities, I wanted to know, which state are you in that you're trying to figure this out? Because each state is going to be different. So type in the state down below for which state you're in. And if I see a bunch of a specific state, I'll probably create a specific video on how to navigate that for your state. And ones that are going to be a little bit more difficult to navigate are California for sure. But I also know that there are a lot of you that are in different states, and so I want to meet you where you're at and give you some guidance. So type in the state down below for where you are looking to start serving a Medicaid population. All right, let's get into the deal now. Let's get into the example specifically for my facility and show you exactly how we get to $12,000 per month with a single room with Medicaid residents. Really excited to kind of go through this. And what I found here is, as I was kind of just looking at things and getting new residents in and looking at the money, I was like, oh my gosh, look at this amount here. In Idaho, where we do this, there's no way I could charge $12,000 for a room. It just wouldn't work. We're able to do this with Medicaid. Now, the first thing that I want you to be aware of, and I know there's some of you that listen to this and you don't think that this is something that should be done in assisted living, but it is the reality. This is a multi-tenant room. It's a multi-resident room. We have 2 residents in this room. There are different classifications for that. There's different regulations that you have to follow if you're going to put multiple residents in a room. In a single room, it's generally 100 square feet for that resident, so a 10 by 10 room. If you're working with multiple residents, then you need 80 square feet per resident in that room. So you need larger rooms. It needs to be like a 10 by 16 room, 160 square feet at a bare minimum. So these are not tiny rooms. We're not like putting them into sardine cans or anything like that. They're big rooms. There's a lot of space for them. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So if you're not okay with that, it's not something you want to do, this strategy won't work for you. But if you are open to doing Medicaid and you're okay having multi-resident rooms, then this strategy is going to work very well for you. And also what I want to say is, like, we still make it an incredible experience for our residents, even though they're multi-resident rooms. It's okay to do that, and you can still be successful with it. Now, let's talk about the specifics for this example right here. The first resident that we have, this resident, they have a daily rate of $136 per day. That's their Medicaid daily rate. If we take that out to a 30-month day, which is, we're just going to say that's an average month, then we're getting $4,080 per month with that from the daily rate. They have a rough payment, that rent, utilities, and food payment that we talked about earlier, of $1,817 per month. And so that means that they're getting a lot of money from some other source, and in order for them to continue to qualify for Medicaid, they have to spend that down. And we're the people that are providing that service, so we are the ones that are collecting that money. So again, that's $1,817 for that. And we combine those two, that $4,080 and the $1,817, and that turns into $5,897 for that resident in the room. Now, resident number 2 has a daily rate of $150 per day. So in a 30-day month, that's going to be $4,500. And then their rough payment is $1,600. So again, they actually have a pretty high rough payment. The state will set a bare minimum. Typically, what I've seen is it's around $900. But because these residents have circumstances in their lives, they have a lot more income coming in and they have to spend it down. So that's $1,600 for that specific resident. $4,500 plus the $1,600 is $6,100. So we combine those two. We have resident 1 at $5,897, and we have resident 2 at $6,100. Combined, that is $11,997. So we're off by $3. But that room right there, and if we have a 31-day month, then all of a sudden we're going to increase that by $136 for one resident and $150 for another resident. So that's $286 there, and that gets us over that $12,000 mark for the month, which is really pretty cool when you think about it. So this is a real example. My facilities, we're able to get $12,000 for a room with Medicaid residents inside of that room, and that's consistent income coming in for that specific room, which is really incredible when you think about it, because there's this stigma around with Medicaid that you can't make money with it, and that it's, you know, it just has this bad perception. And I really want to bust that myth for you, because they're incredible people, number one. That's the most important. But there are ways that you can kind of take advantage of this. Again, we're going to link that video up above where I kind of went through how you can increase those rates. Because what you're going to find as you start looking into Medicaid is there's going to be a daily rate that the state's going to set. They're going to publish that online, and it's going to be $100 a day. In Colorado, it's $103 a day, I think. But there is the ability to increase rent in certain states, increase that daily rate based off of the care that you are providing those residents. As long as you're documenting it correctly, you can do that. So again, we'll link that video up above so you can go watch that one and understand a little bit more about the specifics on how you can go about doing that. So today we went through a lot. We talked about what Medicaid is and what it's not, how it works, how to get certified as a Medicaid provider. And then we got really deep into a specific example to show you that with Medicaid, you can get $12,000 per room per month with Medicaid residents. It's very possible for you to do that. If you found this information to be helpful, number one, like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell so that I can help you out and you get notified as I'm making content. And if you need some extra guidance, go apply to the Mastermind program. Again, it's alimastermind.com. Would love to see if I can help you out. Does residential assisted living sound interesting to you, but you don't know how to get started? At Assisted Living Investing, I'm here to help beginners like you launch their assisted living business in the next 12 months. And I also want to remind you that it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit. Just keep making progress step by step by step. And I promise you that if you do and you're consistent and persistent, you're going to be successful. Thanks for watching and have a great day.